Hello and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, hi, I'm Cassidy. If it's not, thanks for always tuning into my videos. Today, we are doing a haul, which I feel like it wasn't that long ago that I did a haul, but I already have a lot of books and I should probably get them on this bookshelf that has no room on it, even though I just did an unhaul. I might have a problem here, but I'm guessing most of you have the exact same problem that I do, so I don't feel so bad. I feel not alone in this life and this problem that I have. So this is a combined haul since the last time that I did a haul. I felt like that was self-explanatory. Cassidy, why did you say that? Okay, let's just start. This is in no particular order. I just picked up all the books and I need to show you, and here they are. The first is the Lies of Lamora by Scribd Link. This was gifted to me by the lovely Brittany Loves Reading. Thank you so much, Brittany, for all your love and all your support. She gifted this to me for reaching 2K. I don't really know that much about the Lies of Lamora. I just see it everywhere, and it's a bit of a classic now with a band of found family and a heist and really big buzzwords for me in fantasy, so I'm intrigued by it. I did not know that this was not a trilogy, though. I thought it was a trilogy, not a long series, and my patrons, when I sent a picture of it, told me it was a long series, and now I'm very terrified because we haven't had an update. But I have been told that they think that the first 3 books do read a little bit like a trilogy, so I am not as scared to start this one, knowing that at least the 3rd book has a decent resolution before the rest of the plot. It's a Band of Thieves, Gentleman Bastard series. Really just sounds really good. So, I'm excited to read it. And then we have Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldreer. This is an indie fantasy, which was gifted to me by the lovely Rachel at Argent Rabe. Thank you so much, Rachel. Again, I just love you, and I'm so happy that we got to become friends through BookTube and Discord and all this fun stuff, and I'm really excited to read this one. Rachel really loves Travis's work, so I'm very excited. This one says a novel of high fantasy and low stakes. It's supposed to be kind of a slice of life, but in a high fantasy epic world, I believe. High fantasy with a double shot of self-reinvention. I don't really know what this is about completely, but I think that a fantasy, like one of our heroes retires and starts a coffee shop, and then things start to happen, and I think that there's a romance in here as well. I'm not doing very good, but hauls suck because I don't know anything about the books, because I just got them and I want to read them, so the actual synopsises are often not something I know, but this one just sounds like a really good time, and I think it'll be a quick, easy read, and it's an indie author, so you gotta support. And then I have The Fangs of War by E.J. Dobell, the Blood and Steel Saga, Book 1. This is another indie self-pubbed author. I believe this one's actually self-pubbed, not indie. And I, again, know nothing about this. I really, really like this cover. I think it's beautiful. And it's that matte paper that indie books often do, and I just love the feel. This one says, on a silent shore in a distant land, the world was coming to an end. In a story of hope, power, greed, and hatred, all are driven mad by the enemy within. None are safe from the Fangs of War. I believe we're following 2 different characters. I could be wrong. There could be more than 2. And one of them starts a war, and one of them is dreaming of this, like, white void. And there's something about godlike creatures in here, and it just sounds really, really good. A bloody war against the will of a godlike being known as the All-Mother. Plagued by visions of a white void and figure known as the Shadow Woman who begins to unravel the true nature of the war, a conflict not only of men but also of gods alike. Those are just like the little like exciting excerpts from the back, but I just want to read this. This sounds really cool, and it's a little stiff for me though. I wish it was a little bit floppier, but it is a decently floppy indie book. Most indie books are not floppy. And then I have the Blackhawks and the Righteous by David Oreg. This I picked up literally because Jade said she loved them. There's no other reason. During, I think, the Pokeathon gym battle 24-hour readathon, she read the Blackhawks and she automatically loved it and gave it 5 stars. She said it has that humor that Sebastian de Castell kind of writes with, and even the Rune of Kings really has. So I'm very intrigued. Again, I know nothing. I think we're following a mercenary band of criminals. So I think what happens in this book is one of our knights, who doesn't really want to be a knight, has a job to move the prince from point A to point B, and so the Blackhawks come to duty, and they do it, and they're like not a great group of men. I think that there's going to be a lot of swearing, a lot of stuff. I know that there's some wolves in this book from Jade reading out a little bit of a line that she loved, and I'm just really excited to hear the humor in this book. This book actually is my Patreon buddy read pick for the month of April, so I will be reading this one this month, and then hopefully this one, which is chunky compared to this one. And then we have Fireborn by Rosaria Munda. This was heavily suggested and recommended to me by Emma and Maria, and I can't wait to read this. I don't know much about it besides that there's dragons, there's dragon riders, and dragons is like the biggest buzzword for me these days. I love dragon books. I feel like everyone knows me for loving dragons now, and it's become a thing. So I really need to read this. I believe we are following two children who were orphaned, but they come from two different sides of the ruling system. So one is a bit of a wealthy child and one is a poor child, but they're both orphaned, so they grew up in the same orphanage, and even though that they are very different classes in society, they end up bonding a really big friendship, and they become best friends, and they go through the Dragon Riding Academy, something like that, where they're given everyone a chance to test in the governing class of dragon riders, and they're both rising stars in the new regime, and they're like top of their class. And then some politics start to make their way into it, and there's decisions to be made based on the one character's wealth and family status, and the other character has to decide whether they're going to stick by that character. And there's a bunch of politics going on, I believe. I probably got this really wrong. I just read the back and really attempted to summarize it. But there's dragons and dragon riders, so I'm for sure reading this. And then we have Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. This one was gifted to me by Beth. Thank you so much, Beth. And this one follows another tag team of mercenaries, but although they used to be fierce, since the war has ended and their missions have all stopped, they have become fat and lazy. They have grown apart, grown old, fat, drunk, and a combination of the three. And then an ex-bandmate shows up at their doorstep with a new mission for them all. Sounds really good. I obviously like this like band of thieves type style in a book. I love Traitor's Blade for that. That also happens in Prince of Thorns, and I want to read more with this kind of found family, grumpy old mercenaries. And then we have Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill, as well as Of Darkness and Light by Ryan Cahill. I also technically got The Fall, but The Fall was free on the author's website if you signed up for his newsletter, so I got that one for free, and it's just kind of a Kindle edition, so I didn't really include it here, but I thought it would be a good mention. This is the Bound of the Broken trilogy. I've already read book 1. I gave it 3 stars. It follows our main character, Callan, who stumbles across a secret and then is flown into the war and is forced to almost save the war, even though he's not a chosen one. There's like no prophecy for him, but he was kind of just like a shock to society and now has to save the world. That did that no justice. Oh my gosh. It was really good. It has very strong Aragon vibes, and the relationship with a man and a dragon in this are really great. There's lots of animal companions. I enjoyed this one, specifically the ending. I have a whole review on this if you want my in-depth thoughts in my reading self-pub indie fantasy vlog part 1. This one, the flaws in it are the writing style, but I still heavily suggest this to people because the last 100 pages, the writing style changes and gets so much better, and writing style is one of the easiest things as a writer that you can improve and grow on. The storyline is there, the imagination is there. I can see that this is going to be fantastic, and since then I have read The Fall, which is a prequel novella, and the novella got 5 stars from me, and I have technically already started this one, and I have a feeling this will be a 4-star read. I'm honestly kind of obsessed with the story we're going on, and even though this one has its faults, I heavily recommend it. I know I didn't do it justice, but there's dragons and dragon riders, and a little baby dragon in this one that is so adorable, so definitely check it out. And then I'm very thankful that Orbit sent me a couple books this month, and so they have sent me The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. There is a bookmark in there. I have already started this book. This one follows a murder mystery plot line where the justice, which is like the judge, juror, executioner, is going through the realm and seeking out justice when he comes across a murder that isn't all that it seems to be, and he might be figuring out a plot line that would overthrow the ruling system as we know it and the government as we know it. This is very, because I have started, it's very Agatha Christie slow burn murder mystery, but I am excited to still read it. Another book that Orbit sent me is The Bladed Faith by David Douglas. This will be my first dive into David Douglas' writing, and I'm very, very excited for this. A usurped prince will take up the mantle of a deadly assassin to reclaim his kingdom, his people, and his slain gods in the explosive start to a USA Today bestseller. David Douglas' new epic fantasy trilogy. I also love that it's a trilogy. I love trilogies for some reason. Essentially, this follows our main character whose parents were killed and murdered, and then he was held as a political prisoner, and when he finally gets a chance to escape, he becomes something of a figurehead and a hero to set a rebellion, and this just sounds amazing. And I know I read the first page of this because I couldn't wait, and there are some god creatures in this, and that had me really excited. But assassins, gods, political prisoner, a lot of buzzwords for me on this one. Another one that Orbit sent me was City of Dusk. Again, I'm so excited to read this. This whole haul is books I'm so excited to read, so I don't know why I keep saying that. This one follows 4 different realms that converge into one city called the City of Dusk, and although this used to be a thriving realm, the gods have decided to take their magic away and not support it, and so with the magic dying here, the magic is actually dying in all 4 realms, so the ruling parties of all 4 realms are coming together to save the world, essentially. And I know that they all have different powers, so we have Angelica, an elementalist, with her eyes set on the throne, Risha, a necromancer fighting to keep the peace, Nicholas, a soldier who struggles to see the light, and Tahisha, a shadow-wielding rogue with a reckless heart, will become reluctant allies in the quest to save their city, but the rebellion will cost them dearly. Sounds really good. And then we have To Sleep in the Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini. I read this for Book 2 Bestie Episode 2, where I read Aaron's from Booked and Busy's Best and Worst of the Year, and I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 3 stars. There are some pacing issues, but it is quite incredible, and the world built is amazing, and it reads really just like a movie. This book is a first contact with aliens in space, and the aliens are wicked and cool, and I don't really know what to tell you much about this other than that, but if you do want my in-depth thoughts, there is the vlog for it. And then I have Nomads of the Sea by Kobe Zucker, book 1 of the Fishnet Guard. The author kindly sent me this book in exchange for a review. This is a chunky one, but I'm very excited to read it still. This one has a lot of fantasy names, so it's very fantasy heavy. I think we are going to again have a found family aspect in here in the terms of the Fishgut Guard coming together. Witness the beginning of the storied band of soldiers who came to be known as the Fishgut Guard. So another just like tropey love of mercenaries coming together. Then the back really just talks about the 4 different people that we are seeing, and I don't really have much to say about this one, besides that I'm actually really excited, and it's got a civil war happening, and a bunch of stuff, and rebellion, so buzzwords. I can't tell you much about this, but it's another self-pubbed book. Can't wait to read. I need to read it ASAP. And then I have my beautiful edition of The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, which is the 3rd book into the whole series. It is the lovely illustrated edition, and the illustrations in this are stunning. It's the only thing keeping me going. I am buddy reading this currently with my sister and her roommate, and we are on book 3. It took me forever to get through book 2, and I'm supposed to be reading this month, but a really pretty illustration there. And I don't really have much to say. I'm not going to explain to you what Lord of the Rings is about because I feel like everybody knows, and I just don't really feel like trying to rack my brain to tell you what it's about. in the best words possible. So here you go. Here is the Two Towers, which I do love the spines for all of these. And then we have the Swordsmans Lament, which is the Royal Champion, book 1. I gave this book a really, really high 4 stars. I still consider moving it up to a 5 stars every day. So I really enjoyed this. This is another murder mystery plotline in a fantasy world, but the main character reminds me so much of the Greatcoats and our main characters in that series because of just the way he holds himself and the way he speaks and that sly little bit of humor that comes out in it. A dead prince, a grieving king, a legendary swordsman accused of murder. Loyalty counts for nothing when the king demands blood. That's literally all you need to know about this. It's so short, but it's so good. I really, really enjoyed this one, and it is another self-pub book, so I definitely highly recommend checking this one out. It was incredible, amazing. It needs more love in the world. And then I have House of Earth and Blood, Crescent City #1 by Sarah J. Maas. This was kindly gifted to me by Rye. Thank you so much, Rye. I love you so much. And the inside joke is that it came from Rye's husband because I didn't get a gift note, so it just said that his account, and you didn't need to know that, but now you did. This one, I also feel like everybody knows. It's Crescent City. I don't really know much about it, to be honest. I know we are following Bryce, who her demon murders her closest friends, and then we're following another murder mystery plotline. This is an urban setting, so I'm very unsure if I am going to like it, because I don't typically love an urban setting. I don't want cell phones and stuff in my fantasy books. Just pulls me out of the world. But everyone loves this, and obviously, with Sarah J. Maas, there have been hints of all of her books connecting, and I have read the ACOTAR series, and I am 2 books into Throne of Glass, so I feel like I do need to read this and continue and know what the hype is about. I'm not sure if this book truly counts as a haul because it's been in my house for a really, really long time, but the Time Patrol, there's a bookmark. The Time Patrol by Poul Anderson, this is literally my dad's book. It's been in this house for like 20 years. But I was looking through his books recently and talking to him about books, and he told me that he thinks I should try this one. We are following a world where time travel happens, and there are people set, like different stations set across time, so that if somebody F's up time, the Time Patrol knows how it was supposed to happen, and they can go back and reset it and fix it. And something I hate about time books is that idea that, like, it always fucks with me, because I'm like, no, you just did something that would have changed how time would have been, so then you might not have been there, and it just really confuses me, and I think way too deep into it. So I think this concept of having, like, a patrol there to, like, fix things is really cool and intriguing, and it's a sci-fi book, and I do want to read more sci-fi, so it is now on my TBR. So I feel like I hauled it, even though it's been in this house for years. And then we have Burn Red Skies by Kristen Espinosa Rosero. This was kindly gifted to me by Mel. Thank you, Mel. Love you. I don't know much about this anymore. I did talk about it in my indie self-pub fantasy TBR video, but since then I've forgotten what's on the back. There's obviously a dragon on this cover, so there's a dragon, and I believe it was a finalist or a semifinalist for the SFBO, which is the SBFO, the Self-Pubbed Fantasy Award that Mark Lawrence hosts every year. It starts with a rift that burns 1,000 scars. Into the sky, it makes the wind stop, it makes the stars go dark, it awakens an ancient beast, and with it a new rain of blood. It is the summoning, and the heart of it is fire. There is someone training in the elements with only one goal in mind: to find her brother. She just needs to get past the summoner's army, but how can she slay a dragon that is already dead? I don't know, this sounds really good to me. I need to read it. And we also got A Shadow in the Ember by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which was gifted to me by Lizzie. I love you, Lizzie. And this is the prequel series start to From Blood and Ash, that you do have to read this one before you read the 4th From Blood and Ash book, so I need to get diving into this so I can continue the From Blood and Ash series. And I don't have anything else to tell you about it besides that it follows the series of From Blood and Ash. I'm guessing we're just getting deeper into the world that we got in the 3rd book and some of that god stuff that we get. You're welcome for such a terrible synopsis. And then I have also picked up House of Always by Jen Lyons. This is the 4th book in the Chorus of Dragons series, which starts with Rune of Kings, which I absolutely adore and love. I had just been waiting for this to come out in paperback for me to own it and read it. And I just can't wait to dive back into the world of Kieran and these crazy, convoluted stories that I love so much. I can't really tell you what this is about because it is the 4th book in the series, but the first book follows Kieran and it is told it's just like Kieran's life story, but it's told in a very different way. We're told with 2 timelines and then a narrator overarching the story, and I just really highly suggest it to everyone. And then the very last physical book that I have purchased in this time is the broken binding edition of The Prince of Thorns, which is absolutely stunning. And this just follows our prince, who ends up becoming a leader of a band of thieves at the age of like 10 and then just killing everyone. It's really gruesome. It's grimdark. I really enjoyed the first book, but just can't get over how beautiful this is. This is pretty much the only special edition I've ever bought other than like the illustrated editions, and it's because all I have here are the mass market paperbacks, so I wanted something a little bit more special for it. And since I love the Book of the Ancestor trilogy so much, even though I hadn't read Prince of Thorns at the time of buying this, I just had a feeling that I was going to love it, and I was correct. Now this is going to go on my bookshelf with these edges out because they're absolutely stunning and I'm obsessed with it. And then I do have a couple Kindle or audiobooks that I have purchased over the last couple months, and I figured I would include them here as well. So first, starting with Kindle, I have purchased the Extraordinaries by V.E. Schwab, which was a graphic novel in the Villains Vicious world. This is set, I think, after Villains Before Vicious. I really enjoyed the Villain Vicious series. I didn't love this one as much, spoiler. This was picked up and I just had to read it. Really quick graphic novel. And then for another Kindle book I got suckered into buying is The Dragon's Bride by Katie Robert. This is a fantasy romance about a girl who makes a deal with a bargainer demon and then ends up being in a contract with a dragon, and they just do it a couple times. We somehow read this on Sprints one day. I blame Bobby for this, but I read it. I don't recommend it. Don't spend your money. Wasn't worth $5. Also have purchased Bromance Book Club on Kindle because we are reading that for the unofficial, official late night crew book club pick. We don't officially have a book club. We just sometimes read books all together and we pick one per month to read all together. We don't talk about it anywhere other than in our Discord and on Sprints, but there's no like actual live show for it, but we just get together and we read the book on Sprints all together, which is a lot of fun. So I have purchased Bromance Book Club, which is about a romance, which is about a married couple who the wife has been faking it for their entire marriage, and now the husband has picked up reading smut books and starting a book club in order to get better and hopefully save his marriage. I also purchased on Kindle 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim, I believe. And this was just on sale, and I know I have wanted to read it. I have tried a previous book by her and not loved it, but I figured it was really cheap on Kindle that I would pick up the Kindle edition, and if I tried it one day, I had it. I don't really know what this is about. Can't tell you. Sorry. Other than that, I had also bought the audiobook of the first book in the Plated Prisoner series, which is a fantasy romance King Midas retelling. There's not a lot of romance in this first book, can't lie, but I'm hoping to somehow get to the romance through another book in. This really just follows our main character, who is kind of a trophy to King Midas, and it follows their journey through that. I don't want to say too much because lots of spoilers here, but I actually really enjoyed that one. I gave it 3 stars, I believe. And that's it. That is all the books I have currently hauled. I'm sure you'll see another one in about a month and a half because that seems to be the time frame for me to get a decent amount of books, which I'm not that happy about, but also really, really happy about because I love books. And anyways, with that, let me know down below if there's any that you are also interested in. And if you made it this far to the end of the video and you'd like to leave me emoji to say that you were here, leave me a sloth emoji because I'm feeling a little lazy today. And have yourselves a absolutely wonderful day. If you'd like to connect with me on other platforms, my Bookstagram, my Book Twitter, my Goodreads, and my Patreon, as well as the Late Night Crew Discord, are all linked in the description bar below. Take care, guys.